Hi cubies, here's Alexander again, and welcome to my next video. Today we want to talk about creating a world, be it for your fantasy or sci-fi role-playing game, or even if you write a book, a novel, and you need a world to create. So, what have worlds like Middle-earth or the world from The Witcher or in any other fantasy world you can think of in common? Well, they have boundaries. They have very specific rules that apply to this world. For example, let's say in Middle-earth. Middle-earth is a very specific fantasy setting, and the rule says that you won't out of a sudden be faced with a cyborg or with a with something that doesn't fit into this setting. So, and well, to create your own world, your own fantasy realm, you have to set those boundaries first. So let's go step by step through these boundaries. First, is this this world, this fantasy world, does it play on Earth? Is it a new planet, another dimension, or something completely different? So pick one of your choosing. So for example, Earthdawn is supposed to be in Earth. So the name Earthdawn. So, but Middle-earth, for example, is a completely different planet, where the Kingdom of Narnia is in a completely different dimension. So, pick one what you like. So, the next, the age. Well, you know, in the history of man, there were several ages, like the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, and Victorian Age, or what you want. And so you have to decide what timeline your fantasy world lives in. For example, barbaric age, like in Conan the Barbarian or Red Sonja, or in the fantasy setting Earthdawn. This would be a barbaric age. Or does it play today, or in the Victorian age, or in a medieval age, or in the future, or something completely different? For example, today would be Vampire the Masquerade, that plays on Earth today. Future, that is everything from Shadowrun in the near future to Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever. Well, technically Star Wars is in the past, but it is technologically future. It is a little bit different. Okay. Then cultural influence. You have several influences that you can pick for your setting. For example, the Western influence, Eastern influence, Oriental, Gothic, Indian, Egyptian, African, punk, Mongolic, Slavic, Nordic, or cyberpunk maybe. You can set those boundaries. For example, in the Witcher series, it is more a Slavic setting, with the monsters in there are primarily picked from the mythology from the Slavic countries, and less the Western or even Eastern range. So, the next is the percentage of magical superficial influence. Let's say in Lord of the Rings, there you have superficial and magical influence, but it is rather marginal. So, if you look at Gandalf, what does he perform at magic, for example? He has a magic duel with Saruman, where they throw themselves with a little bit of telekinesis. He makes light. Then, when fighting against the Nazgul, he makes light again. He becomes intimidating a little bit, but nothing out of the ordinary. So he's not throwing fireballs around and altering time and space, and is not a super powerful mage. He's just a little bit magical influence. You know what I mean? So in you have here, for example, none or almost none. Almost none, I would say, is up to a little bit is in Lord of the Rings, where in Dungeons and Dragons, for example, you have a good amount or even overwhelming, where everybody is throwing fireballs around and they are flying and doing this and that and this, you know. You have to decide for your own world how magically inclined is the world. For example, also in the realm of ice and fire, in Game of Thrones, it's also almost non-magical. There's a little bit with the dragons, with the undead, and with these White Walkers, but overall, in the normal world, there's almost nothing. So, the inhabitants. What do you want to have in your world? Normal humans, then dwarves, elves, fairies, orcs, gnomes, halflings, aliens, demons, angels, vampires, werewolves, or even Asian-influenced stuff, African-influenced stuff, and so on. Clones, cyborgs. Pick what you think would fit into your world, and well, think about what your world would look like if there are this and that races in the universe. And then the monsters again. The general influence of the monsters, is it a Greek or Roman monsters like griffins and hydras and satyrs and minotaurs? Or is it an Asian influence with Tengu and Oni and stuff like that? Or primarily undead, like in The Walking Dead, for example, it's filled with undead. Western mythologies, is it aliens, demons, or even anime monsters, like something that is totally different and like, for example, a mind flayer. You wouldn't see a mind flayer in, for example, Hercules or Xena. That would be Greek mythology. And then the one of the most important, the physics bending of the world. Physics bending means that like anti-gravity, or like in the X-Men, like Magneto is able to influence everything metallic in his stuff, and he is bending the rules of physics around him. And so you look at point number 4 with the magic. It's the same with the physics bending. How much physics bending you want to be able in your world. So, if you have all this, then you should start mapping out your world. Like, for example, this here. I have created for my Earthdawn campaign a little map. This land is called Chaldea. And here I've simply drawn a little bit, some mountain ranges, forests, a river, and here a little lake, another lake. I've picked in some towns, some major towns, and here I have created a desert and some islands. Yeah, and that is majorly the part of the world that we play in. Also, you have to pick up the scale. Is this here as big as a whole continent, like, for example, Australia or even Africa or something like that? Or is it that small, like, for example, Great Britain? Or even smaller, like an island in the Spanish island chains? It's up to you how big you want to make your world. Also, if you're creating your first world map, you don't have to map out the entire world. If you look at specific fantasy maps, like for example Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth, you have always a little cutout of a world map. It's just a little piece of the world with some towns, and then there's world building around it. You can always in later stuff expand on the world, make it bigger and bigger and bigger. The only thing you need to do on the first world map is make a hint that the world is bigger. For example, here I have etched in this desert. This shows that the world itself is bigger. It is going on here and here, and possibly even here and there, to this side. But you don't see it, because you haven't explored it yet. And so traveling through a desert is quite difficult in a fantasy setting, so it is not clearly mapped. It's just desert. That's it. And yeah, you can expand the world from time to time and make it then even bigger. Another good example for this is the Warhammer Fantasy map. You also have only a little chunk where you can see the Empire, Bretonnia, then a little bit of the African side, a little bit of the Nordic side, and that's it. That's the whole world map that you had at the beginning. In later expansions, like for example when the Dark Elves come out, then the whole world was shown with Ulthuan and the new continent with the lizard man and Dark Elves on the top, and you saw directly that the world was a mirror image of Earth, but like a little bit different. And so you can later expand on your world. But first, start small, start with a tiny little corner of the world, and pick out some details, pick out some landmarks that you think would be there, and yeah, then give them names. Obviously, if you name towns, don't use copyright material. For example, you can't just name a town like Palinth or Novigrad, like in Witcher, or Divinity's Reach, like in Guild Wars 2, or Helm's Deep, like in Lord of the Rings. You know what I mean? Pick your own names. Like for example, here I have called a town here Silmavar, then Karakuron, and Heaven Rock I have called here this mountain, and so on. So it is just simple names I have come up with. Thought, okay, that could sound nice, and you place them in. And when you start mapping out the world, you can start to imagine where are the different factions located in your world, where are the kingdoms, the Dwarven Kingdom, and Human Kingdom, elves here in the forest, for example, and so on. So you can step by step inhabit the world with the creatures you have chosen previously that live in this world, and put them inside. So, I hope this gives you a little bit of inspiration to create your own world in Dungeons and Dragons, or in any other fantasy game setting what you want to have. Yeah, and next time I will show you how to draw a map. I hope you like this, and we see us in the next video. You're Alexandra.